The late afternoon sun painted the modest streets with hues of gold as Dante Cruz loaded the last box of fresh produce into his van. The grocery store's parking lot was bustling with activity as families shopped for dinner ingredients and children darted between parked cars. Dante's worn hands moved with practiced precision, securing the goods he would deliver to a local restaurant. Every dollar earned brought him closer to his goal of sending more money to his family overseas. His wife, Elena, often reminded him to pace himself, but Dante's commitment to his loved ones outweighed his exhaustion. Across the street, Officer John Jack Morgan observed the scene from his patrol car. Morgan had been on the force for years, his once idealistic outlook eroded by countless late shifts and bureaucratic red tape. He'd grown cynical, quick to assume the worst in people. When he noticed Dante's van parked slightly askew in the loading zone, his irritation flared. Morgan exited his vehicle, adjusting his utility belt with a scowl. "Hey!" he called out, his voice cutting through the hum of the parking lot. "You can't park here like that." Dante turned, wiping sweat from his brow. "Sorry, officer. I'm almost done. Just a few more boxes." "Almost doesn't cut it," Morgan shot back, advancing toward him. "This is a fire lane. Do you even have a permit to deliver here?" Dante's calm demeanor never wavered. "I've been delivering here for years. No one's had a problem before." Morgan's jaw tightened. "Well, now you've got a problem. Show me your ID." Dante set the box he was holding onto the ground and reached for his wallet. As he handed over his ID, a few onlookers began to slow their pace, sensing the tension brewing. Among them was Carlos Reyes, a local community activist. From his spot outside a cafe, Carlos watched the interaction closely, his phone already in hand. Morgan scrutinized the ID with exaggerated suspicion. "Dante Cruz, huh? You're not from around here, are you?" Dante frowned slightly. "I live just a few blocks away. My family's been here for years." "Then you should know better than to break the rules," Morgan snapped. "You people always think you can get away with this kind of thing." The comment sent a ripple of discomfort through the onlookers. Carlos instinctively hit record on his phone, the camera capturing every word and gesture. Dante's voice remained steady. "Officer, I'm not trying to cause trouble. If you'd like, I'll move the van right now." Morgan's frustration boiled over. "Don't tell me what to do," he barked, stepping closer. "You're resisting authority." Dante's eyes widened in disbelief. "I'm not resisting anything. I just want to finish my work." Without warning, Morgan grabbed Dante by the arm, yanking him backward. The force sent Dante sprawling onto the pavement, a stunned gasp escaping his lips. Morgan's actions drew audible protests from the crowd. "Hey, that's not right," someone shouted. Carlos's voice rang out. "I'm recording this. Everyone's going to see what you just did." Morgan's head snapped toward the voice. "Turn that off," he demanded, his tone more menacing than authoritative. Carlos didn't budge. "Not a chance. People need to know how you treat us." Morgan hesitated, his bravado faltering as he noticed more phones pointed in his direction. The crowd had grown, their murmurs swelling into a chorus of disapproval. Dante slowly sat up, his cheeks scraped and his arm throbbing. A middle-aged woman knelt beside him, offering a tissue to dab at the blood trickling from his lip. "Are you okay?" she asked softly. "I think so," Dante replied, though his shaken expression said otherwise. Meanwhile, Carlos continued filming, narrating the events as they unfolded. This is Dante Cruz, a hard-working father just trying to do his job. And that is Officer Jack Morgan, abusing his power in broad daylight. This is what we deal with in our neighborhood. Morgan's radio crackled, breaking the tense silence. He muttered a response into the device, then turned to the crowd. "Everyone disperse. This is official police business." No one moved. The collective defiance was palpable. Carlos's voice rose again. "We're not going anywhere. You don't get to bully people and walk away from it." The pressure was mounting. Morgan took a step back, his usual bluster replaced by visible unease. The sound of approaching sirens signaled the arrival of backup, but this time it wasn't reinforcement for Morgan, it was Sergeant Linda Romero. Romero's patrol car came to a halt, and she stepped out with an air of authority. She quickly assessed the situation, the injured man on the ground, the crowd of angry witnesses, and her subordinate's defensive posture. "Officer Morgan, report," she ordered. Morgan fumbled for words. "The suspect was resisting. I had to use necessary force." Romero's sharp gaze shifted to Dante, then to Carlos, who stepped forward. "We have it all on video," Carlos said, holding up his phone. "This wasn't necessary force. This was assault." Romero's expression hardened as she turned back to Morgan. "Is that true?" she asked, her tone cold. Morgan's lips pressed into a thin line, but he said nothing. Romero gestured to Dante. "Sir, are you all right? Would you like medical attention?" Dante nodded hesitantly. "I think I need to see a doctor." Romero signaled to an EMT who had arrived with the second patrol car. As Dante was examined, she turned to the crowd. "Thank you for bringing this to my attention. If anyone has footage, please forward it to the precinct. We're conducting an internal investigation." Her words did little to quell the crowd's anger, but they appreciated her willingness to listen. Carlos stepped forward again. "We're holding a protest tomorrow," he announced. "Right outside the precinct. We're not letting this go." By the next morning, Carlos's video had gone viral, sparking outrage and solidarity across social media. Community members rallied behind Dante, sharing their own experiences with police misconduct. By the time the protest began, hundreds had gathered outside the precinct, holding signs demanding justice and reform. Inside, Romero was reviewing the footage with her superiors. Every angle of the incident painted a damning picture of Morgan's actions. Reluctantly, they agreed to suspend him pending the investigation. Morgan, meanwhile, found himself isolated and defensive. The backlash was unlike anything he'd experienced. For the first time, he was forced to confront the consequences of his behavior. As the investigation unfolded, Dante and his family received an outpouring of support. Neighbors brought meals to their apartment, community leaders offered legal assistance, and strangers reached out with words of encouragement. Elena, who had always worried about Dante's long hours, found solace in the solidarity surrounding their family. When the investigation concluded, Morgan faced disciplinary action and was ultimately removed from his position. The department issued a public apology to Dante and the community, promising to implement new training programs aimed at de-escalation and cultural sensitivity. Dante, though still healing from his physical injuries, found strength in the unity of his neighbors. At a community gathering held in his honor, he stood before the crowd and spoke from the heart. "What happened to me could happen to anyone," he said. "But together, we've shown that we won't stay silent. We'll keep fighting for justice, for fairness, and for each other." The crowd erupted in applause, their determination renewed. The once overlooked neighborhood had become a beacon of resilience and hope, proving that even in the face of injustice, a united community could create meaningful change.